Hey, this is my friend John, and he's just setting up his new bookstore. And that's my neighbor, Peter. Peter is also setting up a grocery store business this month. John began his bookstore business with $10,000. During the first month, he had already rented out a place. He first found out where he could buy books at a good price. He then went ahead and purchased books worth $5,000, but he only paid $4,000 to his suppliers. The first customer that came purchased books worth $60, and he paid the full amount to him in cash. The next sale was for $150. Now this customer was John's friend, and so he promised to make the payment the next day. There were a lot of customers who came to buy books from John during this entire month. Now at the end of the month, John had to pay rent for his bookstore and pay for electricity bill. He also had to pay for printing of banners and for everyday tea and coffee expenses. Now what happened was the supplier came to take his money, and also the person who made the banners for him, and then the guy at the tea stall. Everybody was here, and John didn't have enough cash with him on hand. He had forgotten how much money to pay each one of them. He did not write it down or record any of the transactions that happened. He still had not received money from people he was supposed to, and he was helpless because he had no record of how much to pay and receive from whom. So John was in a total mess. He called me up yesterday and narrated his story to me as I'm an accountant and asked me to come down and help him with all the accounts. The first thing I asked him was, "Did you maintain any records, maybe just on a rough chit?" And he said no. So unfortunately, I had to tell him I would not be able to help him. On the other hand, I also met Peter that day, and he was quite happy with his grocery store. I asked him whether he was keeping track of his daily transactions, and he said yes. He had noted everything, but it wasn't systematic. So he asked me to manage his accounts for him in an organized form. He was quite concerned about his business. He showed me his records. These records were not helping him to know the actual progress of the business. He is unable to make decisions like what is the profit of his business, were his expenses too much compared to his income, and so on. This is where we need to work on the simple records and prepare some further reports that will help him to make these decisions. These were his records, and after a little classifying and analyzing, this is what I made out of it. Now from this report you can see that he purchased grocery worth $6,000, and he paid his rent, electricity bills and for tea and coffee expenses for a total of $1,000. So $6,000 plus $1,000, he spent $7,000, right? And what he received from selling grocery was $9,000. So he received $2,000 more than what he spent, which means there's a profit of $2,000. Now he initially invested $10,000, and we know that he made a profit of $2,000. So he should have $12,000 with him. So where is all this money? This table here shows that he has $9,000 in his bank and $3,000 with him in cash. So his balances are matching here. So by preparing these reports, we know the stand of Peter in his business. We know his profits, and we know exactly where is the money. These reports we made will help him to take important decisions in his business. So what did we learn from this story? John did not maintain any records, which is why we could not further help him to prepare any accounting reports, but Peter kept records. This initial records maintained is nothing but bookkeeping, which is the first step in making reports. And this whole procedure of keeping records, classifying and analyzing to make reports which help in decision making is nothing but accountancy. Accountancy is essential for any business activity, like we saw in this case. But the knowledge of accountancy can also be applied in a lot of other everyday crises we might face, like where to invest your saved money, what's your household income and expenses, which car should you buy, loans, mortgages. The use can be endless. So that's all for today. Thank you.